Welcome to Your Choice and Your Freedom with Ron Green. Experience Texas opinions from a man who's sick of PC arguing and is ready to get solutions for real issues facing Americans.
Thanks for joining me today. I'm Ron Green. Do not touch your dial. We're going to talk about something very fun. So roll one, find a comfortable spot to sit. We're going to talk about marijuana or cannabis, whatever you prefer, on today's show. We have with us today Corey Watkins, who is running for governor on the Libertarian ticket.
Yes, sir.
And we have Danny from Texas Elite Roofing, and he has some personal experiences he would like to convey with us today. And we're going to talk about marijuana and should it be legal? I mean, should the government be telling us what we can smoke, what we can put in our bodies? I mean, if abortion's legal, if women have control over their bodies and can do anything they want, then why the hell can't I have control over my body and do anything I want? That's where I'm coming from.
I totally agree.
So I want to give each one of the guests a chance to tell a little bit more about themselves, and we'll start with Danny. And if you want to go ahead, Danny, and tell us a little more.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you having me on today. My name's Danny Wisened. I'm owner of Texas Elite Roofing, also a competitive bodybuilder. I own a small gym that works with competitors, and I go way back with one of the producers of the show, and have done several shows about this cannabis. And I was excited when the invitation came out to come back because I do have some different views and opinions than I did. First time I was on the show, before I did a whole lot of research and checking into it, I was completely against. I guess today I still see there's some issues, and we need to have some strict regulations on it, but I do believe today my opinion has changed, and I'm on the fence for argument, I guess you would say.
Okay. And Carrie, would you like to?
Corey, but yes.
I'm sorry, Corey.
Hey, you told me.
Absolutely.
Man, that's
it's bad when you can't read your own writing,
like
isn't it? And for you folks out there listening, I just met these folks today, so they're going to tell me if I get it wrong because I want to get it right. It's a sign of respect to call somebody by their given name or whatever name they want to use that day. Anyway, and I want to make sure I get it right. So, Corey, would you like to say a few words?
Absolutely. My name's Corey Watkins. I'm currently the Hunt County Chairman for the Libertarian Party. I'm also the State Executive Committee member for Senate District 2, and I'm currently seeking the nomination for governor under the Libertarian ticket. I'm a huge advocate for freedom, and I absolutely agree with you. Government shouldn't have any say in what we put in our bodies whatsoever.
I'm going to start this segment off by telling a personal story because I believe that theory is great, but the realities of something are how it works in the real world, how people really go. It's one thing for a politician to sit in Washington and go, marijuana is a gateway drug, and by George, we got to make that illegal. They're doing crazy things. They're raping women and, stealing hubcaps. Who knows what the hell them potheads are doing? So this is not the case. My first experience with pot would have been probably somewhere around 15, 16. It was easier to get than beer. I didn't have to find an older cousin. I could just, go out to the school parking lot, and there was a friend of mine there that was selling it, and it was cheaper than beer. No hangover. It was great, go out behind the bleachers and, toke one and go to history class and sleep. It worked out perfect. But I started then I joined the Army in 72, and it was a lot easier to get and a lot cheaper, and I stayed stoned from probably 18 to 21, especially in Korea. $5 got you a duffel bag. Didn't have to worry about the MPs because they're the ones selling it to you. So, it wasn't a gateway drug for me. It just wasn't. I mean, I did the pot. I did do a little mescaline during that time period, but I figured I liked it too much, and I didn't want to spend my life perpetually messed up. I wanted, I had other things I wanted out of life besides being stoned or a psychedelic experience.
Right on.
So that's my experience. And I had a few friends, but not a lot of friends that the drugs overtook their life. It is my opinion that you're going to do what you're going to do, and that no regulation, no law is going to prevent anyone from doing anything. All it does is provide a way to punish people for doing something that someone else did not approve of, period.
And I agree with some of your points there. I have a different outlook on it because I work with a lot of youth. I work with a lot of folks that deal with substance abuse, and so I see the people that do not handle it like you do. I see the people that it leads to something else, and before you know it, they're hooked on something that they can't get off of, and it ruins lives. Not necessarily saying that marijuana is that drug that did that to them, but it definitely, there's a group of people out there, call it a disease, call it of a lack of discipline, whatever you want to call it, that put something in their body that eliminates them having to deal with reality and deal with the daily struggles that we go through and we deal with. Believe me, I was on something from the age of 20 when I started drinking until 5 years ago. I haven't had a drink or anything in my body in over 5 years. And today, these last 5 years, I can say was the first time that I felt like I've grown as a human being, and I've walked through some experiences without having a crutch, without having something in my body that kind of escaped from reality. So I feel like personally, I agree with you as far as what somebody can tell us we put in our body or what they can't. It's no different than alcohol. I think alcohol is one of the worst drugs out there, to be honest.
Right. That's what I was fixing to say. Alcohol is a debilitating drug if you are predisposed to become an alcoholic. In other words, if you have that gene makeup, and that's perfectly legal.
Yes, and I think there's more negativities as far as alcohol goes than there is in anything with marijuana. And the more research I've done, I know there's benefits to marijuana as far as some illnesses go and pain goes and some other things. It would be a lot healthier option than some of the poison that the doctors are putting in our body today.
Totally agree with that. I would say that the people who, let's just say that cannabis didn't exist, the people who have that mentality to be addicted to something, whether it's cocaine or heroin or caffeine or cigarettes or alcohol, those type of people are going to be addicted no matter what. And then there's people that obviously know, okay, this is my limit and I shouldn't be doing that no more. I don't like this, and switch it up. I think if people are going to be lazy, they're going to be lazy no matter what. I don't think a certain drug or anything like that or cannabis is going to do that. It's the person that's going to do that.
See, and that's my point. In your experience, did it being illegal or legal affect your opinion on what you were going to do one way or the other? When you were on it, it didn't bother you, and when you decided to get off of it, the law had no influence on it either.
Right.
I mean, that was a decision that you went through the process. And the folks you're talking about that aren't able to exercise the self-control, or who are like alcoholics, who just have that genetic makeup, that disease. The thing is, the law doesn't affect their decision one way or the other either. Correct. All the law does is give the state or the federal government the authority to put this person in jail for something, especially if they have they're predisposed to become addicted, for something that really doesn't harm anybody other than themselves and, of course, the people that are close to them. I mean, I know it has devastating effects because I have, like everyone probably in the world, I have relatives who can't handle it, whether it's
Right.
alcohol or speed or name any pharmaceuticals, prescription pharmaceuticals.
I mean, that was my drug of choice. Is I got injured on an oil rig and was fractured my neck in 2 places. Doctor put me on pain medicine, and it took over my life. And I'm talking, I lost everything, including a marriage and rights with my kids for a certain time period until I got my stuff together. It wasn't those nights in jail. It came to a point where I hit bottom and I said, I cannot live this way anymore. And I feel like marijuana was never a gateway drug to me. Let's get, I want to get that out there. It never was. I never liked it. I tried it when I was a kid and I said, this isn't for me. And I drinking was a gateway drug to me. And then once I had pain medicine in my life, it took the place of alcohol, and I used that until 5 years ago. So every person is different, whether you have that chemical makeup of being an addict or not, or being an alcoholic or not. I think as far as that goes, I think there is a responsibility to our society for us to keep that in mind, that not everybody's like you. Not everybody's like me. We have to take in effect that there's people out there that are going to struggle. If you make it legal and you give them that option to use that on a basis, it's going to lead to a lot more people out there that probably wouldn't have taken that leap if it had been legal.
Okay, I'm going to let you respond to that because this will be an opportunity for you to shine. So I'm going to let you handle that, and then I'll have something to say afterwards.
Right. I would say that if somebody is smoking something or putting something in their body, the last thing we want to do is lock them up in jail and ruin their life.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And possibly
100%.
their job and their family.
Okay, we're going to continue this during the next segment, and I want to. We're here with Corey and Danny, and we'll be right back.
And we're back. This is Your Choice, Your Freedom with your host, Ron Green, finding solutions for America's problems.
Thanks for staying with us, and I want to thank Corey and Danny again for appearing today. And Corey started making some comments right before the break, and I would like to get him to expand on that because he is running for governor, and this is going to be an issue, and he's going to encounter people like Danny. So I think it would be a good idea if he could expand a little bit more on what he was saying at the end of the last segment.
Right. My issue with locking people up is if they're doing something so-called bad, we shouldn't be. We should be trying to help these people, maybe rehabilitating them and showing them love and educating them and leading by example. Locking somebody up and throwing away the key, it takes away their family, takes away their job, and I think it ruins their life a little bit more. So I think there needs to be. I don't think anybody should be locked up for putting anything in their body. That's a personal choice that person decides to make. And if a family feels like something's wrong, maybe we can check them out and get rehabilitated and try to get them on the right path, so they don't have to be away from their family and so they can still continue their job and be a righteous person in society.
Well, as far as you were talking about. The law or making it legal would make it more accessible and easier for people to get on it. I'm gonna disagree with that. I'm gonna push back on that a little bit because when I started smoking pot, it was a big deal. A roach in the ashtray would literally get you 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
I mean that's it. I mean, so that did not deter me. It just made me smart about how I bought it and how I used it. In other words, I never got caught, thank God and Graham,
So
but
you're telling me-
it didn't. The fact that I could get 20 years for it didn't faze me a bit. I just figured I was smarter than the cops. Now, maybe I was lucky or maybe I was, but there are a lot of people who do get caught.
Right.
And there were a lot of people who did get caught. But the point I'm trying to make is the law in and of itself doesn't prevent behavior, and pharmaceuticals are easy to get once the prescription has been written out of mom and dad's medicine cabinet. but they're a lot harder to get initially than illegal drugs because we've got folks out there making a lot of money making it easily accessible.
No, and I agree. But when you talk about when it's more accessible not being an issue of it being a bigger problem, I mean, if you walk up to a stand and you can buy marijuana from a stand legally or from a shop legally, there's a percentage of people out there that aren't going to do it just because they're law-abiding citizens.
Right. Not low-life degenerates like me.
Correct,
Right?
like myself.
Yeah, right,
for
yeah,
years.
yeah.
And so that percentage of people that wouldn't even attempt to, because they do respect the law and they do try to operate their lifestyles in a way that they're not going to get locked up, which we
Right.
probably didn't care at the time we did. But those are the people that are going to play with something that they don't know if they can control or not at that time if they get involved with that. I think it would be pretty naive to say it's not going to cause some folks to purchase it that normally wouldn't be down on your street corner trying to hook up with somebody.
I would say it's going to maybe try some people to think about and go and maybe with another friend and try it that otherwise wouldn't because they would be too afraid of the consequences if they
Correct.
got caught.
Correct.
But whether or not it would prevent the person from actually, once having tried it, continuing to do it or not,
Not at
I
all.
just
Not at
don't think laws are designed to punish, not prevent.
If we look at Colorado and some of the things that are going on there, the crime rate has actually went down. We know for a fact that prohibition does not work.
I know that's
It
right.
just does not. It creates more crime, and it helps people like gang members and stuff like that to grow even stronger. If you look at Colorado, the crime rate has gone down since they legalized it there, and also the usage for teens and stuff has gone down. If we legalize cocaine tomorrow, not everybody's going to go out and do cocaine that haven't tried it. The people that probably do it are probably going to continue, and the people that don't probably aren't going to try it. It's a personal choice. The law is not going to keep anybody from doing it or not doing it.
And you're correct about the I think there's one of the main things we need to focus on is the way they deal with folks that are caught for a
Right.
first time or a second time. Because, like you said, locking them up is not the solution. It never will be. It doesn't work now. It's not going to work in
And
10
locking
years.
up drug dealers doesn't work either because as soon as you lock him up, there's another guy standing in his place.
In his way, and as soon as he gets out, he's going to go
He's
back
right
to
back
it.
to it.
And
So
it costs the taxpayers a
There's
lot of money to
money.
shove these prisons full of people.
Right.
And most of our prisons are packed with people who have non-violent victimless crimes like using drugs.
Correct. And, as far as marijuana goes, because we are on that topic.
Right.
I know some people that are locked away right now because they had a little sack.
A little
personal
more than the
sack
personal allowed, right.
in their vehicle at the time of being pulled up. Why is someone out there risking lives driving drunk get a slap on the wrist? I know there's some pretty hefty fines because I have one back when I was
Right.
21 years old. And I couldn't imagine what they'd run today if you got one. But somebody like that's actually putting people's lives in danger, and then someone that, not even smoking or high gets caught with that in their vehicle, and they just lock them away thinking that's the solution. But
Yeah. The issue with making it legal is, number one, is the tax base. Instead of spending money to fight a war that cannot be won,
Right.
okay, let's collect the money, let's educate people.
Hey.
And if marijuana does in fact, and I don't know, I haven't done enough research. I know that there are I have read some articles where doctors swear that marijuana under certain circumstances aids in pain management, aids in helping people without appetites develop appetite. So there are people out there saying it does have medical uses. So if it does, let's take advantage of that. Let's collect the tax money and let's use it in a positive way. Let's use it for education. Let's use it for helping people deal with if they are alcoholics or whatever, if they are suffering from more of what I would consider a disease than just a simple mental desire to get stoned.
Right.
Let's help those people with that money.
I agree.
I mean, locking all these people up, and like he said, prohibition does not work on anything. I don't care what it is, whether it's marijuana, cocaine, alcohol, sex, it don't work, because all it does is drive it underground where there's actually more risk to the population when it's underground than when it's out in plain sight. If it were legal, we would know it would be the right kind of people selling it, and a buyer going to buy it doesn't risk getting shot.
Right.
In the process of just simply trying to buy a bag of weed. Now, I doubt that happens very often for weed, but for some of the other drugs, it's very possible you could be at the wrong place at the wrong time.
Well, the more you regulate it and tax it, I think that does open a door and an opportunity for us to reach out and give these folks that cannot get away from it an opportunity for rehabilitation versus locking them up and even getting sicker, you know. You put someone with a problem like that in jail, they're going to come out 10 times worse than they went in, and they're going to come
out with an attitude because they don't feel like they've really done anything that warrants going to jail.
Right.
I mean, you cannot undo something like that to someone's psyche. I mean, if you really believe that you're being punished for something you don't deserve, you're so resentful and reject everything from that point on that person.
Well, the fact is, right now, it's the law. Whether you agree with it or not, it's the law.
Right.
If you're going to push it aside and be upset at the point that it's a law and you get busted, there's consequences you got to pay anytime you break the law. So I can't back you on that, but I can back you that we need to put our heads together.
Well, I'm not talking about whether it's right or wrong. I'm just talking about the nature of a human being and their perceived injustices, whether justified or not. I mean, there are a lot of times I felt like I was wronged when an outsider standing on the outside will go, "No, dude, you weren't wronged at all. You know, you just perceive it that way because you don't feel like you were treated fairly, but you weren't wrong. It may not have seemed fair to you, but that doesn't matter." So the main thing for me is that I just don't see any point in fighting a war that we've been fighting this long and haven't made any headway. As a matter of fact, it's gotten worse.
We spend billions of dollars.
Literally.
And it's taxpayer money. It's just wasted money. The plant is obviously winning. The plant obviously saves people's lives. This actually used to be a medication before the 1920s until the pharmaceutical companies could figure out that this stuff actually helped people and cured people.
I'm inclined to. My point is this, and we're going to get into this some more in the next segment. But I really think that we need to rethink how we're handling this all across the board. We'll be back with Corey and Danny right after this break.
Your choice, your freedom with host Ron Green is back. Which American issue are we fixing today, Ron?
We're fixing the pot issue. Not the one you potty in, the one you smoke. Anyway, welcome back. We're here with Corey and Danny, and we are discussing cannabis and whether we should legalize it or not. Is it a gateway drug or not? Is it, good for you, bad for you? Should we be locking people up for having it, that kind of thing? And during this segment, I'm going to turn it more over to Corey, who is running for governor, and let him kind of set the tone and the direction of this segment. so that we can get a feel for the way maybe the legislative body, or I guess that's the best way to put it, would think about this. And I know he's a libertarian, so he's going to bring a different insight to it and have different questions, and not dictate to us maybe what our position should be, and maybe want to find out what our position actually is, kind of a thing. So anyway, Corey, if you'd like to go.
Yeah, I always like to ask people when we're talking about cannabis is how many people have died from the use of cannabis? In the history of history, how many people have died? And the answer is zero. Nobody has. Nobody has overdosed from this. You can smoke all you want, and you'll probably just take a really good long sleep, but nobody's actually died from this. As a matter of fact, lives have actually been saved from all kinds of different problems as far as medical issues. Like I said, before the 1920s, a lot of this stuff was over the shelf. Cannabis oils and stuff like that, and the pharmaceutical companies got into it, and they didn't see any money in it, and so that's where we get our Western pharmaceuticals and all that stuff, because there's all kinds of money involved in that. The medical benefits for cannabis are through the roof, and matter of fact, we don't even know all the benefits, because when you try to research this stuff, whether you're a university or anything like that, the federal government does not allow much research at all. It's very hard to do the research, and the strands that they give you are very weak.
Yeah, that's because it's a Class 1 narcotic. It's a Schedule 1 narcotic, and it's already been deemed as having no medical value.
And that's an absolute lie.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can study cocaine, and it's much easier to get if you're in a university or professor and stuff like that, and you want to do the study of heroin and cocaine, it's much easier to get that substance than it is cannabis from the government. Like we already touched, prohibition does not work. It will lower the crime rate immensely. We'll get rid of the gang members and the crime and pushing stuff like that. My campaign idea on cannabis is to get government totally out of the way. Now, if we got to a point where we could legalize it and it would be taxed and regulated, it's better than what we have now. But I still don't like that, because I believe government ends up corrupt. It always does, and they're not looking out for the people. They're looking out for themselves. They are money-hungry whores. That's what they are. They are evil people. The government does not. If the government comes to you and say, I'm here from the government and I'm here to help you,
right,
that's a lie. They are not here to help you. The actual name for pot or marijuana or whatever we want to call it is cannabis, and the reason why it was given the name marijuana is to scare people. And the reefer madness back in the 50s and the 60s, that was there to scare people and say, don't use it. If you use this, you're going to end up dating a black guy and he's going to beat you or something like that. I mean, it was crazy propaganda that was made up so people steered clear of this. Now, I don't believe it should be taxed. I believe if I want to grow cannabis in my backyard, and Ron, you're my neighbor, and you want some, I should be able to give it to you. Why is the government coming involved and saying, Ron, you got to pay $5 since Corey's selling this to you? And then they're going to double tax because they put sales tax on it as well. And then they're going to misuse the tax money. You look at our roads and our infrastructures today, and I mean, they're pouring billions of dollars into this stuff, and there's still so many issues with it. I believe that the people should be able to keep the fruits of their labor and spend it how they see fit, and there should be no government involvement at all.
Okay, well, I agree with a lot of that, but I believe, and just as a pragmatist, taxes are here to stay. They just are. You're not going to eliminate taxes totally. Now, can we rein them in? Should there be a personal income tax? Absolutely not. But we're never going to get totally away from taxes, simply because the whole world population is brainwashed.
Agreed.
From the time they start kindergarten that taxes is the only way to provide roads, schools, hospitals,
right,
yada. Public services. The only way you can have public services is to have taxes.
And
Now then, they don't bother
And
to
our tax
mention
money doesn't
that
even go
the
to
first schools were built by the townspeople
Right.
who lived in the town, and yes, they did support the school, but it wasn't through a tax system.
Right. I totally agree with that.
People gave they got together and they agreed, okay, we need a teacher, and probably back then the teacher made what, $1 a month, who knows,
Whatever they agreed on.
whatever they agreed on, and the people with the money to do that, the people who had kids in school, chipped in enough to pay that teacher $1 a month. The whole population of the town was not taxed to support that school.
Right, but before 1913, there was a couple hundred years where we had military, we had school, we had
Right.
fire departments and all that stuff, and it
Yeah.
worked efficiently. We had roads, we had all that stuff, and it worked out great. And if somebody didn't like what was going on, you could always opt out. And there is a way more help when something is voluntary and it's for a good cause, rather than when we're forced to give something to government and it's a middleman and there's really no they don't have any
Yeah, well, I figure we got about as much chance as an ice cube in hell in getting marijuana legalized in the state of Texas. It'll be legal in every other state before it's legal in this state. But I know if we got any shot at all, you're not going to be able to sell it without
some kind of revenue.
some kind of revenue, because the politicians love things
Absolutely.
that make them money.
absolutely
I mean, and they'll work hard to sell that. But if there's no money in it for them, forget that. I mean, this pack of cigarettes right here,
Right.
okay, this thing cost me almost $8 a pack if I buy it as a single pack.
Right.
Okay, this same pack of cigarettes, when I started smoking, cost me less than 40 cents. The difference is the tax.
Yep.
Now
absolutely.
add in inflation. This pack of cigarettes should cost me at the most $1.75 a pack, and it cost me almost $8, and every bit of that is tax. Everything above that $1.75 is tax. It's going to the federal government, the state government, the city, the county. Everybody's got their finger in my pocket because I'm using a product that they do not approve of. Now let's talk about that. What right does any institution, what right does any person or government entity have to tax me because they do not approve of the product I'm using?
I believe taxation is theft without question. If somebody's forcing you to give them money, that's theft, and I don't agree with that. I believe that if something is a good cause, people will come together for that cause and support it, and I don't believe anything should ever be used and forced to make people do something that they don't agree with and don't want to do.
And you look at the origins of income tax, it was an option. They gave folks an option to give when they could give. And that's a totally different topic, but we had a discussion on it here a while back of being a private sector citizen, and legally, by the Constitution, we should not have to be committed to those taxes. There's folks that I don't want to get on a totally different issue,
No,
but
that's fine. We're
can
good.
fight for that. And if you know the ways around it, can get by
Yep.
with not doing it. But there's books to read out there that I've read one of them.
It's cheaper to pay the tax, though.
Yeah, no, I agree. You definitely want to hold it while you're not paying it, just in case. 'Cause
yeah.
I'm not going to spend a day in jail. But back on the topic, as far as I think there's a way, surely we can put our heads together, and a way to have a revenue on this, whether you call it tax or not on marijuana, where, yeah, maybe you don't have a problem with it, but your neighbor does. And if he's one of those people that cannot get away from, or at least or something else, to give them another option than jail to actually go in for rehabilitation, like we discussed. I actually went to a treatment center 5 years ago, and it changed my life. I was at a spot in my life that I had hit bottom. I was done. I didn't know any way to look but up. And it was for people that cared enough about me to reach out and show me that there was another way. The reason I'm here today, I have no doubt if I stayed on the path I was on, I probably wouldn't be here today. And, we'll don't want to get into faith and all of that right here, but I will tell you that was a turning point in my life. And it wasn't until I was reached out and helped by some folks that had walked down that same path as me.
Right.
And had come out on the other side that, has opened my eyes and improved my life tenfold. But
That's what I was talking about, experience, and people who had actually walked the walk. A politician can't. If someone in Washington, a legislator who has no idea about what they're talking about, telling us what's good for us.
Right.
See, the people that help you could help you because they had been there and done that.
Yeah, we need more of that, people who help each other out rather than just lock them up and say, oh, you did something bad. So
we actually, the best thing, like you said, would be to have the government totally out of it. And the community could deal with it better. Okay, we're going to kind of wrap this segment up right here and pick up on the next segment about what can we do about, is there anything we can do today other than, talk about it and complain about it? Is there anything we can do today to improve the situation? So
Don't touch that dial.
during the
You don't wanna
next
miss what we have
segment,
coming up.
be sure and
Your
join
choice
us.
and your freedom with Ron Green. And we're back. This is Your Choice, Your Freedom with your host, Ron Green. Finding solutions for America's problems.
Okay, thanks for joining us, and we're here with Corey Watkins and Danny from Texas Elite Roofing, who would like for you to call him when you need a roof. Heck, call him if you don't need a roof. Get a price. Get a price so you're ready when you do.
Right on.
Let's. I know we've touched on it here and there during all the previous segment, but let's boilerplate it down to what. Let's suppose we legalize it. What's the upside? What's the downside? I mean, in reality, how would this work? I mean, we have other states that have done it. How's it working out for them? I'm sure there's an up and a downside, but really, what would be so horrible about walking into a cannabis shop like you walk into a cigar store? I mean, what's the big deal?
No big deal at all. It actually makes it safer. I would rather much, have people walk into a store and have somebody purchase it over the counter rather than meeting somebody, in a dark alley or in their car and, in a chance of them getting arrested with a guy that has a gun, and maybe something even worse happens. Somebody gets hurt with that altercation, and then their life is ruined. So the only thing I can think of bad is if we legalized it, that government would be involved in it and have regulation.
Of course, they're going to be involved in it.
Right. That's.
I don't know that that's the only downside. I'm sure you can think of one or two.
Back to what we talked about. The more available it is, the more it's. Just like alcohol. Alcohol is one of the biggest issues we have in society today. And I think it's just going to be as big, if not a bigger of an issue once it's legalized. Can I foresee the future? No, but I can tell you that the pain and suffering that I see in the lives of folks that I try to help on a daily basis, whether it's in prisons or treatment centers or just the rooms of groups around the area. People come in there, lives shattered because of substance abuse, whether it's marijuana or speed or whatever the case is. And the more available we make this stuff, I think the bigger problem we're going to have. I totally agree with you on some of the pros you guys have mentioned today. And like I said, my opinions have completely changed since 3 years ago when I did the first show on this topic. I do see some pros about it. I do still see some negatives that I think we can't. If we're looking at this in a realistic view, I don't think we can sit there and say there's nothing bad that can come out of this.
Okay, of course there's two sides to every coin.
Right on.
Okay, nothing is 100% positive or 100% negative. I don't care what it is. Even the things you enjoy most in life, there's some kind of a price you pay to enjoy that thing, whether bodybuilding, for example, I know it costs you something. If it's nothing else, it costs you money.
A lot of time.
And a lot of time. And a lot of time. So my thing is this. My pro for legalizing it is, number one, I don't think it's any of your business. Okay? It's just not.
Right.
It's none of your
And I can
business.
see your point
If I'm a
on that.
crackhead, if I'm an alcoholic, that's none of your business until I make it your business. I back you.
Exactly.
I back into
Exactly.
I back into your car. Then you got a beef.
Yeah.
Then you got a beef. But we have ways to deal with me backing into your car
Right.
already. So that's one point. The next point is the way it is now. The drug cartels control the weed and what's in it. You have no idea of what
you're
percentage of it is really marijuana and what percentage of it is grease. What is the activating substance? It's on the tip of my tongue. The
TLC.
what?
THC.
TLC, right.
No, THC.
THC, okay. We don't know what levels of THC are in it. And in Colorado, they have to label, this is this much T. You know exactly what's in it.
You know exactly what you're buying. You know if you're buying an indica. You know if you're buying a sativa. You know what kind of strand you have and what kind of problems it fixes, whether it's a headache, whether it's seizures or anything like that. Absolutely.
Right. That's for the medical part. But even on the recreational
Right.
part, they still have to tell you what the
THC level.
THC level is. So to me, that's a big plus. I want to know what I'm getting. Probably my biggest concern about this drug or any other drug being illegal is kids aren't particularly smart. I know I wasn't. That's why I'm a cigarette
a lot
smoker.
smarter than we give them credit for.
Well, yeah, I started smoking when I was 8 years old. I don't think I was all that bright, or I wouldn't be
No.
smoking. Okay, so and we're a lot more reckless when we were young because we all know we're invincible, right? I mean, shoot, I knew for certain that Superman didn't have nothing on me.
Right.
So we're willing to take risks that we probably should not take. And we don't know what we're getting when we go down to a street corner, or they don't know what they're getting when they go down to a street corner and buy something. And I think it leads to more deaths than it would if A, they had to be over the age of 21, and B, it was clearly stated what they are. And not only that, but the pharmaceutical industry would no longer be able to require a prescription for any drug.
Well, I think you nailed it on the head there. I believe the politicians have their hands in it,
Yeah,
and they're making money off of
Yeah.
it from the pharmaceutical companies. These pharmaceutical companies are the ones that are probably not letting this thing fly
Right.
through because they'd be out of business.
Yeah.
you know?
Absolutely.
And I totally agree with that. And they're feeding people poison, stuff that's killing people. I mean, this pain pill
illegal stuff.
epidemic
Legal stuff.
that is going on now is far worse than marijuana could ever be.
Right.
You know, but they're making tons of cash on it,
Yep.
so they'll let it slip by. Man, this country's greedy. These people are.
It's not just
All
the
out for the
pharmaceutical companies either, okay, because the various states and law enforcement and federal law enforcement agencies,
Prison industry.
prison
Corporations.
industry, they're all making tons of money off of this. If you get caught with enough pot in your car to be considered a dealer or putting it out there for distribution, they can seize your car.
Yep.
Now then, if you're driving a nice Lexus that's bought and paid for, you're not getting that car back. You know, whatever law enforcement agency picked that car up, it's their car. It's going on the auction block unless one of the cops actually wants it.
And that's theft, in my opinion.
And that is theft. That is theft. And the other thing is cash. If you're carrying more cash, and I don't know what the exact number is, that they believe you actually need to be carrying, then that money can be considered dirty money,
Right.
and they can seize that.
Right.
It's guilty until proven innocent.
No,
you
I
gotta
agree with you.
you gotta prove it.
I
And
agree
all of
with
that stems from the drugs. So the government, the drug dealers, and the pharmaceutical companies are all cashing in, and people are doing jail time. People are ODing on buying stuff they thought was one thing and getting something else and dying. And people are ODing because it's just too easy to get. I just think if it's illegal, it's going to be harder to get. Without that criminal element, you're going to shut down the cartels. There's no there's no money stream there.
I don't believe it's going to shut down the underground of it. I really don't. I mean, perfect example. You can buy alcohol all day long, but people still run moonshine through here like it's nothing. Because more money on it.
Moonshine's a little more potent, and it's a lot cheaper.
Right.
There aren't all those federal taxes on it.
Yeah,
So
I
if you
agree.
take his idea and don't tax it, then the underground, but it's not going to be as much.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I mean, we're a long way from the 1920s when, they up until the 1930s when Prohibition ended. And I'm sure moonshine is how stock car racing got started, but we're a long way from that. Yeah, there's still some steals out there, and underage people are still getting their hands on booze because they've got an older cousin or a younger, older uncle who doesn't see the harm. So, yeah, I'm not saying it's going to eliminate it totally, but I'm saying it's going to make a big dent.
The deal is, legal or not legal, there's still going to be issues where this
Right.
topic's brought up. I think our main topic and our main concern needs to be how to deal with those issues.
Right.
Where should we put whatever money that's going to be brought in? Should we put it to housing these people in jail? Absolutely not. Should we put it into treatment centers and people who are out there trying to help an individual get to the other side of this? That's where this money needs to be going, not in the pockets of these guys that are,
well, were it to be legalized, I promise you, it's going in the general fund.
Oh, I agree.
Just like it did in Colorado. I mean, you're never. The only way it's going away in Colorado is if the feds go in there and start arresting those store owners and the growers, because the state legislature has already got addicted to the money that marijuana raises, and it's an enormous amount of money.
It's a lot of dough.
And it's an all-cash business because you can't put drug money into a bank. It's illegal.
Right.
So I don't think we're going to see an increase in crime, and let's say that people actually do, and I've never seen this, but let's say people actually do get to jonesing for some pot and don't have any money and go out and burglarize a house, to go hawk the folks' TV. Hopefully it's a smart TV because they can get more money for it. But we have a law to deal with burglars. We have a law to deal with that, So I don't really think we've solved this issue. We have discussed the pros and cons. I'll tell you this. I think
Thank
it's
you for tuning in to Your Choice
I
and Your
think
Freedom with
it's
Ron Green. We'd love to hear from you.
no
Join
chance
the
of
movement.
passing in
Voice your
Texas
concerns.
anytime soon.
Your
That's
choice,
what I
your
think.
freedom
Thank you guys for
.com.
joining me
See you
today,
next time.
Danny and Corey.
Thank you.
Thank you.